I showed up at my ex's wedding in rags, and he slapped me in front of everyone. They called me a crazy, jealous ex, but I wasn't there to win him back. I was there because I'd just inherited a billion-dollar empire, and he had no idea who I really was. Before I tell you how one slap turned a poor girl into a billionaire and brought a man to his knees, hit that subscribe button right now. This story has more twists than you can imagine. I'm Eliana, and buckle up for this ride. You know, when you grow up poor, really poor, you learn things that rich people will never understand. You learn how to stretch $1 until it screams. You learn how to smile when your stomach is empty. You learn how to hold your head high when you're wearing shoes with holes in them. That was my life. My entire childhood was a masterclass in survival. My mother worked 3 jobs. 3. She cleaned office buildings at night, from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. Then she'd come home, change her clothes, and head out to wait tables at a diner until 2 in the afternoon. After that, she'd sleep for a few hours before going to her evening shift at a grocery store. I barely saw her, but when I did, she was always exhausted, always worried, always counting pennies and cutting coupons and trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill and buy groceries at the same time. We lived in a tiny apartment in the worst part of town. The walls were thin enough that I could hear every argument, every fight, every moment of everyone else's misery around us. The bathroom was shared with 2 other families. In winter, the heating barely worked, so we'd sleep in our coats and pile every blanket we owned on top of us. In summer, the heat was unbearable, and we couldn't afford a fan. But my mom never complained. Not once. She'd brush my hair before school and tell me, "Eliana, baby, we might not have money, but we have something more important. We have dignity. We have pride. Never let anyone make you feel small. You hear me?" I heard her. I just didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. Everything changed when I got a scholarship to the university. Full ride. It was like winning the lottery. My mom cried for 3 days straight, happy tears for once. I was going to be the first person in our family to go to college. I was going to have a chance at a better life. I was going to escape. Or so I thought. The university was like landing on another planet. Everyone around me came from money, real money. They had cars, credit cards their parents paid for, closets full of clothes I couldn't even dream of affording. I worked night shifts at a diner just to have spending money for textbooks and basic necessities. I'd show up to morning classes smelling like grease and coffee, exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open. But I didn't care. I was there. I was getting an education. I was fighting for something better. That's when I met Brandon. He walked into my life like he walked into everything else. Confident, smiling, completely sure of himself. He was in my economics class, always sitting in the front row, always raising his hand, always knowing the answers. He wore clothes that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe combined. His watch alone could have paid my mom's rent for a year. He drove a car that made people stop and stare. And for some reason I still don't understand, he noticed me. It started small. He'd smile at me across the lecture hall. Then he started sitting next to me. Then he started showing up at the diner where I worked, ordering coffee after coffee, just sitting there and talking to me during my breaks. He didn't seem to care that I was wearing a stained uniform and smelled like fried food. He didn't seem to notice that my shoes were falling apart or that my backpack was held together with duct tape. "You're different," he told me one night, sitting at the counter while I wiped down tables. "Everyone at school is so fake. They're all trying to impress each other, competing about who has what. But you're real. You work hard. You care about things that matter. I've never met anyone like you. I fell for him. God help me, I fell so hard. He was charming and funny and sweet, and he made me feel like I mattered, like I was worth something. For the first time in my life, I felt beautiful, important, seen." We started dating, and suddenly I was part of his world. He took me to restaurants where the menus didn't have prices, where one appetizer cost more than my weekly paycheck. He introduced me to his friends, other rich kids who looked at me like I was a curiosity, something interesting and strange. He took me on weekend trips to beach houses and ski resorts, places I'd only seen in movies. He bought me clothes so I'd fit in better at his social events. At first I was uncomfortable with it, but he insisted. "I want to spoil you," he'd say. "You deserve nice things." I should have known better. I should have seen the signs. But I was young and in love and desperate to believe that fairy tales could come true. Meeting his family was when reality crashed down around me. His parents lived in a mansion, an actual mansion, the kind with gates and a long driveway and more rooms than any family could ever need. When Brandon first took me there for Sunday dinner, I was terrified. I wore the nicest outfit I owned, a simple dress I'd found at a thrift store, and I'd spent an hour trying to make myself presentable. It wasn't enough. His mother looked me up and down like I was something dirty she'd stepped in. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "So you're the girl Brandon has been spending time with. How interesting." Throughout dinner, she asked me questions designed to embarrass me. What did my father do? I told her I'd never met him. What did my mother do? I explained about her 3 jobs. Where did I live? I gave her the name of my neighborhood, and I watched her nose wrinkle in disgust. What were my plans after graduation? I said I hoped to find a good job, maybe in business or finance. She laughed, actually laughed. How ambitious. That's very sweet. His father was worse. He openly mocked everything about me. He made jokes about poor people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps while staring directly at me. He talked about charity work and how important it was to help those less fortunate, as if I wasn't sitting right there. He asked me intrusive questions about money, about debt, about my mother's financial situation. Every question was designed to humiliate me, to remind me that I didn't belong in their world. But the worst was his sister Rachel. She was 25, entitled cruel in a way that only people who've never struggled can be. She called me the charity case to my face. At family gatherings, she'd introduce me to her friends as Brandon's little project. Once she pulled me aside at a party and said, "You know this won't last, right? Brandon is going through a phase. He's experimenting with you before he finds someone appropriate, someone from our world. You're just entertainment." I took it all, every insult, every degrading comment, every humiliating moment. Because I loved Brandon. Because when we were alone, he was different. He'd hold me and tell me I was beautiful. He'd say his family didn't understand us, but it didn't matter because we had each other. He promised me that love was enough, that nothing else mattered. I believed him. We were together for 3 years. 3 years of trying to fit into his world while knowing I never really would. 3 years of enduring his family's cruelty and his friends' condescension. 3 years of working myself to exhaustion to maintain some sense of independence while being constantly reminded that I'd never have what they had. 3 years of loving someone who I thought loved me back. Then we graduated. Brandon got a position at his father's company immediately, Vice President of Development, a corner office and a salary that made my head spin. Suddenly, he was busy all the time, working late, networking, building his career. Our dates became less frequent, his texts shorter, his calls rushed. I told myself it was just a phase, that things would go back to normal once he settled into his new life. I was lying to myself. One day, about 6 months after graduation, he asked me to meet him at a coffee shop, not one of the fancy places we used to go to, a regular chain cafe. I should have known right then that something was wrong, but I showed up, hopeful, thinking maybe he wanted to talk about our future. Maybe he was ready to get serious, to start planning a life together. He couldn't even look at me when he said it. "Eliana, I think we need to talk about us." He was staring at his coffee cup, his jaw tight. "You're a wonderful person. You're kind and hardworking and genuine, but we're from different worlds. My family will never accept you. My career, I need to think about my future, about the kind of life I want, about the kind of partner I need." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need someone suitable, someone who understands my world, someone who can help me professionally and socially, someone who—" He finally looked up at me. "Someone who fits. Suitable." That word shattered me into a million pieces. I begged him. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I sat there in that cafe with tears streaming down my face. telling him that I could change, that I could be what he needed, that I loved him more than anything. People were staring, whispering. I didn't care. I was losing the person I thought I'd spend my life with. He just stood up, put on his sunglasses, and walked away. He didn't hug me goodbye, didn't kiss me one last time, didn't even look back. He just left me sitting there crying into my cold coffee, feeling like the smallest person in the world. That was 5 years ago. I survived. Somehow. I went back to my life, working, helping my mom, trying to move forward. The heartbreak faded eventually, turning into a dull ache I learned to live with. I told myself I was better off, that Brandon had shown his true colors, that I deserved someone who loved me for who I was, not despite it. Life went on, painful, difficult, exhausting, but it went on. I found a decent job, nothing special, but it paid the bills. My mom and I moved to a slightly better apartment. Things weren't great, but they were stable. I dated a few people, but nothing serious. Nobody made me feel the way Brandon had, and I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. My mom collapsed at work. They called me from the hospital at 3 a.m. By the time I got there, the doctors had already run tests. They sat me down in one of those awful consultation rooms with the dim lighting and the uncomfortable chairs, and they told me the news with practiced sympathy. Stage 4 cancer, pancreatic, terminal. There was nothing they could do. 2 months, maybe 3 if we were lucky. I quit my job the next day, spent every penny I had on treatments we both knew wouldn't work, but at least they gave us more time. Time to talk. Time to be together. Time to say the things we'd always meant to say but never had. She was strong for the first few weeks, weak but still herself, still my mom. We talked about everything. My childhood, her struggles, her regrets, her pride in me. Then one night, about a week before she died, everything changed. She called me to her bedside. Her hands were shaking, and I could see tears streaming down her hollow cheeks. "Eliana, baby, come here. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago, but I was trying to protect you." My heart was pounding. "Mom, what is it? What's wrong?" She pulled out an old wooden box from under her pillow. I'd never seen it before. It was simple, made of dark wood, with a small lock that she opened with a key she wore around her neck. Inside were things I never knew existed: photographs, letters, legal documents, all yellowed with age. "Your father," she whispered. "Everything I told you about him was a lie." The room tilted. "What?" "He didn't abandon us. He didn't just disappear. I sent him away. I had to." She was crying harder now, struggling to get the words out. "I worked as a personal assistant. 29 years ago, I was 23 years old, fresh out of secretarial school, and I got hired by a tech company. My boss he was brilliant, charming, ambitious. He was married, but his marriage was falling apart. We spent long hours together. He confided in me. I fell in love with him. She showed me a photograph. A young woman, my mother, beautiful and smiling, standing next to a man in an expensive suit. He had his arm around her and they both looked happy. Young, in love. We had an affair for almost a year. Then I got pregnant with you. I told him, and everything changed. He panicked, said he couldn't leave his wife, couldn't risk his reputation, couldn't let anyone know. He was on the verge of something big, about to launch a company that would change everything. A baby with his assistant would ruin him. My hands were shaking as I looked at the photograph. "Who is he, Mom? Who's my father?" She closed her eyes. Vincent Cole. The name hit me like a freight train. Vincent Cole. The Vincent Cole, tech billionaire, pioneer of modern computing, one of the richest men in the entire country. Forbes list, Time magazine covers, charity galas and political influence, and a fortune measured in billions. "You're lying," I whispered. "That's not possible." But she showed me everything. The settlement agreement where he paid her $100,000 to disappear. The confidentiality clause that legally prevented her from ever revealing his identity or contacting him. The threatening letters from his lawyers, the photos of them together, in restaurants, at his apartment, on weekend trips, the medical records from her pregnancy with his name listed as the father. "He threatened to take you away from me," she sobbed, "said he'd use his money and lawyers to prove I was an unfit mother, that I'd never see you again. I believed him. He had the power to do it. So I took his money and signed his papers and promised to never tell anyone. I used the money to raise you, to give you a good education. But it wasn't enough. We still struggled because I was too proud to ask for more, too scared to break my promise. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My father was Vincent Cole. I was the daughter of a billionaire, and I'd spent my entire life in poverty. Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. She pulled out another envelope, this one new, with an expensive law firm's logo on it. "Because he's dead." Vincent died 3 months ago, and his lawyers found my name in his private files. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from Vincent Cole's personal attorney, written on heavy, expensive paper. "Dear Miss Eliana, I am writing to inform you of matters concerning the late Vincent Cole's estate. Your mother's name was found in Mr. Cole's private records, along with documentation confirming your biological relationship. While Mr. Cole maintained distance during his lifetime as per legal agreement, he followed your life from afar and made provisions for you in his final will. Mr. Cole's legitimate heirs, his 3 children from his marriage, will inherit Cole Industries and all associated holdings. However, Mr. Cole maintained separate personal investments, properties, and accounts outside of the company. These assets, valued at approximately $1.2 billion, have been bequeathed to you. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to begin the inheritance process. Enclosed, please find documentation confirming your parentage and legal right to these assets." I read it 3 times, 4 times. The words didn't change. $1.2 billion. I was a billionaire. "I'm sorry," my mom kept saying. "I'm so sorry I kept this from you. I'm sorry for everything, but promise me something, Eliana. Promise me you won't let them treat you like nothing ever again. You're a Cole. You're worth just as much as they are. More, because you've actually struggled. You've actually suffered. Don't let them make you feel small." She died 2 days later. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath, the woman who'd worked 3 jobs, who'd sacrificed everything for me, who'd kept this massive secret to protect me. She was gone, and I was alone in the world, alone, orphaned, and impossibly, unbelievably rich. The lawyers came the next morning. They were professional, efficient, dressed in suits that probably cost more than our apartment's yearly rent. They showed me documents, bank statements, property deeds. Everything was real. All of it. I owned penthouses in 3 cities, a villa in the south of France, a private island, stock portfolios, investment accounts, art collections, cars I didn't know how to drive, money I couldn't even conceptualize, but there was a problem. A big one. Vincent Cole had 3 legitimate children from his marriage: Christopher, who was 45, Jonathan, 43, and Patricia, 38. They all worked for Cole Industries in executive positions. They'd known about the company their entire lives, been groomed to take over, and they were contesting the will. Their lawyers argued that I wasn't really Vincent's daughter, that my mother had somehow manipulated a dying man, that the will had been changed under duress or cognitive decline. They demanded DNA tests. They filed injunctions. They gave interviews to major news outlets, painting my mother as a gold-digging opportunist who'd trapped their poor father decades ago and was now trying to steal from his real family through me. I had DNA tests done immediately. The results came back definitive. 99.9% probability that Vincent Cole was my biological father. Couldn't get more certain than that. But Christopher, Jonathan, and Patricia wouldn't accept it. They escalated. Their lawyers called for a meeting at Cole Industries headquarters. I'll never forget walking into that building for the first time. 50 stories of glass and steel, Vincent Cole's name in massive letters across the front. Security everywhere. Executives in expensive suits rushing through the marble lobby. I wore my nicest outfit, a simple dress and jacket I'd bought for job interviews years ago. Next to everyone else, I looked like I'd walked in from a homeless shelter. They made me wait in the lobby for 2 hours. 2 hours of sitting on an uncomfortable bench while employees stared at me and whispered. Finally, a cold assistant led me upstairs to a conference room that was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a table that could seat 30 people, and at the far end, 3 people who looked at me with pure, undiluted hatred. Christopher sat in the middle, clearly the leader. He was tall, handsome in that generic wealthy way, with graying hair and a suit that probably cost $10,000. Jonathan sat to his right, younger but somehow looking older, with hard eyes and a cruel mouth. Patricia was on the left, beautiful and cold, her diamond jewelry catching the light every time she moved. "So you're the bastard," Christopher said without preamble. Not even a hello. "You're the one claiming our father owed you something." "I'm not claiming anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The DNA tests prove that your mother was a whore who seduced a married man," Patricia interrupted, her voice dripping with venom. "She was his assistant. She used her position to trap him, to extort money from him, and now that he's dead and can't defend himself, you're trying to steal from his real family." "That's not what happened," I started, but Jonathan cut me off. "We don't care what your delusional story is. Our father was senile at the end, sick, on medication that affected his judgment. Any changes to his will were made under duress or cognitive decline. We will prove that in court." "He left documentation," I said. "He'd been tracking me for years. He wanted nothing to do with you," Christopher said coldly. "If he cared, he would have been in your life. But he wasn't, was he? Because you and your mother were nothing to him, less than nothing. An embarrassing mistake he paid to go away." Each word was designed to hurt. And they did. But I held my ground. "The will is legal. The DNA tests are conclusive. I'm his daughter and he left me that money." "We'll see what the courts say," Patricia said, standing up. "Security." 2 large men in suits appeared at the door. "Escort this person out of the building and make sure she doesn't come back." They grabbed my arms, not gently, and dragged me toward the door. I tried to maintain my dignity, but it was impossible. They pulled me through the conference room, into the hallway, past the elevators where executives and assistants stopped to stare. They dragged me through that massive lobby while dozens of employees watched and whispered. They literally threw me out onto the sidewalk. I sat there for a moment, humiliated beyond words, trying not to cry. People walked past me, stepping around me like I was garbage. A few looked at me with pity. Most didn't look at all. That's when I understood what my mother meant about never letting them make me feel small. The legal battle was brutal. It dragged on for months. Christopher, Jonathan, and Patricia hired the most expensive lawyers in the country, teams of them, dozens of attorneys working around the clock to destroy me. They gave interviews to every major news outlet, telling their version of the story. Gold digger's daughter trying to steal from grieving family. Opportunist making false claims about deceased tech titan. Bastard child appears from nowhere demanding billions. My face was everywhere. My name was everywhere. Reporters camped outside my apartment building. Photographers followed me to the grocery store. People recognized me on the street, shouted questions, took pictures without permission. Some were sympathetic. "I hope you get what's yours, honey." Others were cruel. "Your mother was a homewrecker and you should be ashamed." The media attention was suffocating. Every day brought new headlines. Every day the Cole siblings appeared on television, looking dignified and wounded, talking about their poor father who'd been taken advantage of. Every day I had to defend my mother's memory, my own existence, my right to what was legally mine, and through it all, the legal bills kept mounting. The court hearings kept multiplying. The depositions went on for hours. The DNA evidence was challenged. The settlement agreements were scrutinized. The photographs were called fake. The letters were dismissed as forgeries. Vincent Cole's lawyers, the ones handling his will, had to defend every single document, every single detail. It was exhausting, soul-crushing. Some days I wanted to give up, to take whatever settlement they offered and disappear. But I kept hearing my mother's voice. Don't let them make you feel small. 6 months into this nightmare, I was scrolling through social media one night, unable to sleep, when I saw it. Brandon's engagement announcement. His face filled my phone screen, that same smile I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. That same confidence. But next to him was someone new. A blonde woman named Melissa, beautiful in that polished, expensive way. The caption read, "She said yes." Excited to start this new chapter with my beautiful fiancé. The comments were full of congratulations. His mother had written, "Finally a girl worthy of our family. So proud of you both." His sister Rachel had posted photos from the engagement party at some country club with the caption, "When you marry the right kind of person. Blessed, dash your family first." There were hundreds of photos. Melissa came from money. Her father owned a chain of luxury hotels. She'd gone to all the right schools, belonged to all the right clubs, had all the right connections. She was everything I wasn't, everything Brandon had wanted instead of me. The wedding was set for 2 weeks from that night. I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. I wasn't heartbroken. That wound had healed years ago. I wasn't jealous. I didn't want Brandon back, but I was angry. So deeply, furiously angry. This man had thrown me away like trash because I was poor. He'd told me I wasn't suitable for his life. His family had treated me like I was beneath them, like I was nothing. They'd humiliated me, degraded me, made me feel worthless, and now they were celebrating, living their perfect lives, completely unaware that the girl they'd discarded was worth more than their entire family combined. Because they didn't know. That was the thing. The Cole family drama was all over the news, but Brandon clearly hadn't been paying attention. He was too busy planning his wedding, too focused on his perfect life to notice that his ex-girlfriend, the one his family had mocked and rejected, was now a billionaire heiress. That's when the idea came to me. Terrible, beautiful, perfect. I was worth $1.2 billion now. His entire family, the ones who'd treated me like garbage, were probably worth $50 million, maybe less. I was 24 times richer than them. I could buy and sell them without even noticing the expense, but they didn't know that. What if I went to his wedding, not as Eliana Cole, billionaire heiress, but as Eliana, the poor ex-girlfriend they all remembered, the girl who wasn't suitable, the charity case, the mistake? What if I let them treat me exactly the way they always had? In front of hundreds of witnesses? In front of cameras? What if I let Brandon show his true colors, the ugliness he'd hidden behind his charm all those years ago? And then, after he'd revealed himself to the world, what if I revealed who I really was? It was risky, crazy, possibly stupid, but I couldn't let it go. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Not as revenge. I mean, it was revenge, but it was more than that. It was about dignity, about showing them exactly what they'd thrown away, about making them understand the magnitude of their mistake. I called my lawyer the next morning. "I need something from you." "Of course, Miss Cole." "What do you need?" "I need you to keep my identity quiet for 2 more weeks. No press releases. No public appearances, nothing that connects Eliana Cole, the heiress, to Eliana, the person. Can you do that?" There was a pause. "May I ask why?" "Personal reasons." Another pause. "I can try. But the Cole siblings' legal team is being very aggressive. If this goes to the media, then let it. Just give me 2 weeks. After that, you can release everything." "As you wish, Miss Cole." Next, I went through my old belongings, found the waitress uniform I'd worn at that diner 7 years ago. It was stained, wrinkled, smelled faintly of old grease even after all these years. Perfect. I didn't wash my hair. didn't put on makeup, didn't do anything to make myself look presentable. I wanted to look exactly how Brandon and his family remembered me. Poor, struggling, beneath them. The wedding was at the Grand Lux Hotel, one of the most expensive venues in the city. I took the bus there. Actually took the public bus, sitting next to people who smelled like they hadn't showered in days, feeling the sticky seat beneath me, watching the city pass by through grimy windows. It felt surreal. I owned properties worth more than this entire bus route, more than the hotel I was headed to, maybe more than the entire neighborhood. But nobody on that bus knew it. Nobody would ever guess it. The hotel was magnificent. Everything Brandon's family would want. Crystal chandeliers dripping from the ceiling, marble floors so polished you could see your reflection, massive flower arrangements that probably cost more than most people's cars. There were 300 guests, all dressed in designer clothes, all drinking champagne that cost hundreds of dollars per bottle, string quartet playing classical music, ice sculptures, waiters in white gloves carrying trays of caviar and lobster. I snuck in through the kitchen entrance. The catering staff was too busy to notice one more person in shabby clothes. I blended in with the servers for a moment, then slipped through a service door into the main venue. The moment I stepped into that ballroom, the energy changed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, heads turned, people stared. I heard the whispers immediately. "Who is that? Is she homeless? How did she get in here? Someone call security." A woman in a silver gown actually gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. A man in a tuxedo pulled his wife away from me like I was contagious. 2 teenagers pointed at me and laughed. I didn't care. I walked through that crowd of perfectly dressed, perfectly coiffed people, my old uniform standing out like a bloodstain on white silk. I had one destination. Brandon was standing near the front of the ballroom, surrounded by groomsmen, all of them laughing about something. He looked so handsome in his designer tuxedo, hair perfectly styled, smile bright and confident. Next to him was Melissa's father, Gregory, owner of the hotel chain, both of them holding champagne glasses, both of them looking like they owned the world. Which, compared to most people, they did. Just not compared to me. I walked up to them slowly. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were shaking. Part of me screamed to turn around, to leave, to not do this. But I kept walking. "Brandon," I said quietly. He turned, and I watched his face change. Confusion first, then recognition, then absolute horror. The color drained from his skin. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His champagne glass tilted, liquid splashing onto his shoes. "Eliana?" he finally managed. What are you doing here?" Before I could answer, his mother appeared like a vulture spotting prey. She was wearing a burgundy dress that probably cost more than I used to make in a year, diamonds at her throat and ears, her face twisted in disgust. "Security!" she shrieked. "Security! Remove this person immediately." People were gathering now, forming a circle around us. Phones were coming out. I could see the cameras pointing at me, recording everything. Perfect. Melissa rushed over, her white designer dress trailing behind her like something from a fairy tale. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect everything. "Brandon, who is this person?" "Nobody," he said quickly, grabbing my arm. His fingers dug into my skin, hard enough to bruise. Just a mistake from my past. "She needs to leave." A mistake. There was that word again. I smiled at him. A mistake? Is that what I was, Brandon? After 3 years together? His father pushed through the crowd, his face red with anger. The same man who'd humiliated me at family dinners, who'd made jokes about poor people while I sat at his table. "You have some nerve showing up here. This is a private event. You're trespassing." Rachel appeared next, her expression gleeful. She looked like she was watching the best entertainment of her life. "Oh my God, is this the charity case?" "Brandon, I can't believe she actually came. This is absolutely insane." More people were gathering. The circle was getting bigger. I could hear the whispers, the judgments, the disgust. Everything I'd expected, everything I'd planned for. "I just wanted to talk to you. I said to Brandon, letting my voice shake a little. Please, just 5 minutes. There's nothing to talk about, he said coldly. His grip on my arm tightened. You need to leave. Now. This is pathetic, Eliana. You need to move on with your life. I pulled out an envelope from my pocket. Inside were old photographs I'd printed out, pictures of us together from college, happy and in love. Love letters he'd written me, saved in a box for all these years. Don't you remember? I asked, my voice breaking. Don't you remember when you said you loved me? When you said I was the most real thing in your fake world? His hand lashed out and knocked the envelope from my grasp. Papers flew everywhere, scattering across the marble floor. Photographs landed face up. Us at a beach, us at his apartment, us at my graduation. Evidence of a relationship he'd pretended never mattered. You're embarrassing yourself, he shouted. His face was red now, veins standing out on his neck. The crowd was pressing closer, phones still recording. I never loved you. You were convenient, someone to pass time with while I was young and stupid. You were never good enough for this world. You will never be good enough. Each word hit me like a physical blow, but I'd expected it. I'd wanted it. This was exactly what needed to happen. Melissa was crying now, her perfect makeup running. Brandon, make her leave. His mother was screaming at security guards who were trying to push through the crowd. Get her out! Get her out now! Rachel was filming on her phone, laughing. This is going straight to social media. Oh my God, this is gold! I reached for Brandon's hand one more time, playing my part perfectly. Please, I begged. Just listen to me for 1 second. I need to tell you. His hand came across my face. The slap echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. For a moment, everything stopped. The music, the conversations. Time itself seemed to freeze. Pain exploded through my cheek. My vision blurred. I tasted blood in my mouth. My legs gave out and I fell to the floor, landing hard on my knees. The marble was cold and unforgiving. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard gasps, screams. Someone shouted, "Oh my God!" Melissa was crying harder. But above it all, I heard Brandon's voice, loud and clear and filled with venom. Stay away from me, you crazy, desperate woman. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. You're embarrassing yourself and everyone here. Get out. Security guards were grabbing me now, pulling me to my feet. My face was throbbing. Tears were streaming down my cheeks, some real, some from the pain, some part of the performance. They dragged me through the crowd, past the horrified guests, past the ice sculptures and flower arrangements, past all that expensive, meaningless beauty. They threw me out onto the street, literally threw me. I stumbled, nearly fell again, caught myself on a lamppost. My cheek was on fire. When I touched it, my fingers came away with blood. He'd hit me hard enough to split my lip. I stood there for a moment on the sidewalk outside the Grand Lux Hotel, in my stained waitress uniform, my face bleeding, people walking past and staring at me with pity. Just another poor person having a bad day, just another nobody that nobody cared about. Except I wasn't. I pulled out my phone, not the cheap one I'd been using, but my real phone, the expensive one. The one with direct lines to my lawyers, my PR team, my financial advisors. My hands were shaking but steady enough. First call, Thomas, it's Eliana. I need you to press full criminal charges for assault. I want him arrested. Are you certain? My lawyer asked. This will be very public. That's exactly what I want. File the charges immediately. Second call, Jessica, it's time. Release everything. Every document, every photo, every detail about who I am and how much I'm worth. I want it everywhere within the hour. My PR director hesitated. Miss Cole, are you sure? This will be explosive. Do it. Now. I stood there on the sidewalk, my face throbbing, my heart racing, and I waited. 30 minutes later, my phone started buzzing with news alerts. Within an hour, the story was everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Every news site, every social media platform, every gossip blog. But the story wasn't what Brandon expected. The headlines read, "Billionaire heiress Eliana Cole assaulted at ex-boyfriend's wedding. $1.2 billion heiress attacked at luxury hotel. Vincent Cole's secret daughter slapped by ex-boyfriend on video." The photos flooding the internet weren't of me in my waitress uniform. They were professional shots from my lawyer meetings, me in designer clothes, standing in front of my properties, shaking hands with my legal team. Articles detailed my inheritance, my net worth, my ongoing legal battle with the Cole siblings. Comparisons were made. Eliana Cole, worth $1.2 billion. Brandon's entire family, worth an estimated $50 million. I was 24 times richer than everyone at that wedding combined. The video of Brandon slapping me went viral immediately, but now it had different context. He wasn't disciplining a crazy ex-girlfriend. He was a man who had just committed assault against one of the richest women in the country, in front of 300 witnesses, all caught on camera. Within 2 hours, police arrived at the Grand Lux Hotel. They walked through that beautiful ballroom, past all those shocked guests, straight to Brandon. They arrested him in the middle of his wedding reception, put handcuffs on him in front of everyone, read him his rights while his mother screamed and his father tried to argue with them, walked him out through that same lobby where I'd been thrown out earlier. Melissa's family called off the wedding immediately. Her father released a statement within hours. "The Pearson family will not associate with individuals who commit acts of violence against women. The wedding is canceled effective immediately." Social media exploded. The video had millions of views within hours. Everyone was talking about it. Some people were on my side. She showed up to show him what he lost and he hit her. Others thought I'd manipulated the situation. She set him up. But nobody could deny what happened. Nobody could deny what he'd said, what he'd done. Brandon's world collapsed in real time. His company started losing clients within days. People didn't want to work with someone who'd been caught on camera hitting a woman. His father's business partners released statements distancing themselves from the family. "We do not condone violence of any kind." The video played on morning shows, afternoon shows, evening news. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was talking about the man who'd slapped a billionaire at his own wedding. His mother tried calling my lawyer, begging for me to drop the charges. "This will destroy his life. Please, he made a mistake." His father tried offering money, first $100,000, then $1 million, then $5 million. My lawyer told him I spent more than that on art last month and hung up. Rachel deleted all her social media accounts after people found her videos of the incident and flooded her comments with hate. "You're as bad as your brother. Your whole family is disgusting. Hope you all lose everything." 1 week later, Brandon came to see me. Not at the apartment I'd lived in when we were together. I didn't live there anymore. I'd bought a penthouse on the top floor of the Diamond Tower, the most expensive building in the city. 65th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire skyline. My designer had furnished it with art worth millions, original paintings by masters whose names most people only knew from textbooks, furniture custom-made in Italy, a kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to use, a wine cellar with bottles worth tens of thousands of dollars each. Brandon stood in my marble foyer, looking small and broken. His expensive tuxedo from the wedding was gone. Now he wore a wrinkled suit, his face unshaven, his eyes hollow and red. He'd aged 10 years in 1 week. The confidence, the polish, the arrogance, all of it was gone. He looked like a man who'd lost everything. Which he had. I was wearing a simple white dress, nothing fancy. But it was Valentino, and it cost more than his car. My jewelry was minimal, just a watch. A Patek Philippe worth $200,000. I poured myself a glass of wine from a bottle worth $5,000. Didn't offer him any. "Eliana," he whispered. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know." I took a sip of wine. It was excellent. "Didn't know what, Brandon?" That you're... He couldn't even say it. "I saw the news. Your father." The inheritance. The money. I had no idea. Would it have mattered? I asked calmly. If you'd known 5 years ago that someday I'd be rich, would you have loved me? He opened his mouth, closed it. Couldn't answer. I came to apologize, he finally said, for everything, for the way I ended things, for the things I said at the wedding, for hitting you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He took a step closer. Please drop the charges. My life is destroyed. Melissa left me. My company is hemorrhaging clients. My father's business is failing because nobody wants to work with us. Everyone hates me. I've lost everything. I set down my wine glass. You want to know why I came to your wedding looking like that? He didn't answer. I wanted you to see me exactly the way you've always seen me. Poor, desperate, beneath you. I wanted you to treat me exactly the way you really felt, so the world could see who you truly are. His face went pale. You set me up? You planned this? No, Brandon. I didn't make you slap me. I didn't put those words in your mouth. I didn't make you cruel. You did that all by yourself. I just gave you the rope. You're the one who hung yourself with it. But you knew, he said, his voice rising. You knew what I'd do. You manipulated. I knew you'd treat me badly, I interrupted, because you always did. When we were together, you let your family humiliate me. You never defended me. You were ashamed of me. And when you ended things, you told me I wasn't suitable for your world, so yes, I knew you'd be cruel. But the slap, the violence, the things you said, that was all you. He fell to his knees. Actually, fell to his knees on my marble floor. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll make a public apology. I'll go to therapy. I'll donate to charities, whatever you want. Just drop the charges, please. I looked down at him. This man I'd once loved so much it hurt. This man who'd made me feel worthless. This man who'd chosen money and status over love. Do you know what you said to me that day in the coffee shop? I asked quietly. You said you needed someone suitable. Someone who fit into your world. Someone who could help you professionally and socially. You threw away 3 years of love for social status. I was young, he pleaded. I was stupid. I didn't know what I was doing. My family pressured me. You thought I'd always be poor, I finished. You thought I'd always be beneath you. You thought you were trading up by leaving me, but you weren't. You were trading down. You just couldn't see it. I see it now, he said desperately. I see what I lost. Please, Eliana, please. I loved you, Brandon. My voice was steady now, cold. I loved you truly and deeply. I would have done anything for you. I endured your family's cruelty because I loved you. I let them humiliate me because I loved you. I would have spent my life being poor if it meant being with you. Because love was enough for me, but it wasn't enough for you. You loved money and status more than you ever loved me. Tears were streaming down his face. I know, and I'm sorry. If I could go back. But you can't. And now you have neither. You don't have love and you're losing your money and status too. Funny how that works. So you're just going to destroy me? He asked. That's your revenge? No, I said. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone was watching when you did it. The slap, the words, the cruelty, that was all you. I just gave you the opportunity to show the world who you really are. Please drop the charges, he begged one more time. I'll be convicted. I'll go to jail. My life will be over. Good, I said simply. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll become a better person. Or maybe you won't. Either way, you'll face the consequences of your actions, something people like you rarely have to do. I nodded to my security guard who'd been standing quietly by the door. Please escort Mr. Brandon out and make sure he doesn't come back. As they led him away, he kept looking back, kept trying to say something, but I'd already turned away, looking out my floor-to-ceiling windows at the city spread below me like a carpet of lights. The trial happened 3 months later. It was quick. The video evidence was undeniable. Brandon was convicted of assault and sentenced to 6 months in jail, 3 years probation, and mandatory anger management counseling. His family tried everything to get the sentence reduced, but the judge was firm. Mr. Brandon used his position and perceived power to commit violence against someone he thought was vulnerable. The fact that his victim turned out to be a billionaire doesn't change the crime. I didn't attend the sentencing. I was too busy living my life. I settled the inheritance dispute with Christopher, Jonathan, and Patricia. They dropped their challenges after months of fighting, finally accepting that I was their half-sister and had legitimate claim to the assets. We're not close. I doubt we ever will be, but we're civil, professional. They run coal industries, and I manage my own investments and properties. I finished my education, something I'd always wanted to do. I started a foundation in my mother's name, focusing on helping single mothers and their children escape poverty. Every year, we provide hundreds of scholarships to students like I was, bright kids from poor families who deserve a chance. I bought the apartment building where my mother and I used to live and renovated every unit, making them affordable but comfortable. I hired property managers who actually care about the tenants. It's not just business. It's personal. And sometimes late at night, when I'm standing in my penthouse looking out at the city, I think about Brandon, about the man I loved and the man he turned out to be, about the life I thought I wanted and the life I have now. I don't hate him anymore. I barely think about him most days. But I'm glad it happened the way it did, because if he'd stayed with me out of love, we might have been happy. But instead, he showed me exactly what he valued. And in doing so, he taught me the most important lesson of my life. Never let anyone make you feel small. Never accept being treated as less than you are. And never ever mistake money for worth. My mother was right. We didn't have money, but we had dignity. We had pride. We had love. And in the end, that was worth more than all the billions in my bank account. Though I won't lie, the billions don't hurt either. One slap changed everything. Brandon thought he was punishing a poor, desperate ex-girlfriend who couldn't let go. Instead, he assaulted a billionaire in front of 300 witnesses and destroyed his entire life in the process. He lost his wedding, his reputation, his business, and his freedom. All because he couldn't see past his own arrogance and cruelty. My mother taught me to never let anyone treat me like nothing. So I didn't. I showed Brandon and his entire family exactly what they'd thrown away. Not just money, though there was plenty of that, but a woman who would have loved him when she had nothing. A woman who would have stood by him through anything. A woman whose worth had nothing to do with her bank account. Now I have everything. And he has nothing. Some people call it revenge. I call it justice, and maybe a little bit of both. My name is Eliana Cole, and this is how I turned humiliation into power. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will leave you speechless. Comment below and tell me honestly, Team Eliana, or do you think I went too far with my revenge? Was Brandon's punishment deserved, or did I manipulate the situation? I want to hear your thoughts. Share this video with someone who needs to remember their worth, who needs to know that being poor doesn't mean being worthless. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell, but I hope it inspires someone out there who's being treated like they don't matter. You do matter. You are worth something, and sometimes the people who throw you away are the ones who end up with nothing. Until next time, remember, never let anyone make you feel small. You might just be bigger than all of them combined.